A good day to my seventh grade Talmidim. Today we're going to continue to talk about the Talmidim Rabbi Akiva, and the next one we're going to talk about is Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, as everybody knows, from Lag BaOmer, but let's get into a little bit of a deeper depth than that today. Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai was one of the five great Talmidim Rabbi Akiva, who were then given smicha after Rabbi Akiva's death by Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava, and he was the main source for our mystical tradition called Kabbalah today. The assumption is that all this Kabbalah, which he mastered, he received from Rabbi Akiva, who's also a famed Kabbalist. Now, what is Kabbalah? The word Kabbalah, which of course you should know or write down, means received wisdom. And received wisdom means that this is not something which one makes up from logic. One cannot understand what's happening in the higher realms, in the worlds above ours, where the angels and the various different types of angels are to be found, by just logical construction, which you can do by most areas of Torah, once you have the basic principles. But the Kabbalah which you have to receive is knowledge of how things work in Shamayim. It's like it's not a nevuah, as you can receive it from a Rebbe, to receive it from Shammai directly, but it's something where you have to receive the wisdom. So that is why Kabbalah is called Kabbalah. Please remember, right? Again, you have to write down things, and should be writing down things even when I don't tell you to write them down. But I'm telling you to write this one down specifically. Now, the Kabbalah, there are many areas of what we call Kabbalah in which a person can use logic. And a person can infer and deduct and use reasoning in order to understand, and in order to be mechadish, in order to say new ideas. But the core of Kabbalah, which has to be received, is that wisdom which has to do with how the heavenly system works. Without getting into great detail at the moment. Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai also appears throughout the Mishnayos as Rabbi Shimon. Whenever you say Rabbi Shimon, and it doesn't say Rabbi Shimon ben X, it's Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. So therefore his opinion follows many times. Opinion appears many times in the Mishnayos. It's interesting. We don't usually pass like Rabbi Shimon. Machlekes Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda, we pass like Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda is usually not because of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, who we will learn about subsequently. Rabbi Yehuda was the one who was usually halacha follows his opinion. Okay, it was one of the other Talmidim, but Rabbi Shimon appears very often. Sometimes we do paskin like him in the famous case of the specific case of Malach to Gufa and Psik Resha. Not Psik Resha. Davar Shem Miskavin by Shabbos. Ask your Rebbe about that. Davar Shem Machlekes Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Yehuda by Malach Shein Tzich Gufa and by Davar Shein Miskavin. So you can ask him in greater detail. We're going to write that down. In these cases, we pass on Rabbi Shimon, which is very important for halacha in our day and age. Davar Shein Miskaven is when you're doing something on Shabbos, and you don't intend to do something else. It might happen on its own. It might happen automatically, which calls the case it's called the Psik Resha, but it might not happen when it doesn't happen automatically. When it's not something which you're mechaven to, you didn't have in mind to, it's called Davar Shein Miskaven. For example, let's say you open a door and a burst of wind comes in, and it makes a candle burn brighter on Shabbos. You didn't have that kavanah. That wasn't your intent. That's called Davar Shein Miskaven. And unless we know that you either intended it or that it's something which you're very happy about, it's not also to open that door on Shabbos. Malach Shein Tzich is, according to the simplest explanation, is a malacha which is done for a purpose for which it wasn't done in the Mishkan. So, for example, in the Mishkan, they used to dig holes in order to get out building materials, whatever it is, sand and so on and so forth, from the hole. right? So they weren't digging a hole for the purpose of a hole. If you dig a hole for the purpose of the hole, that's Malacha Shein Tzricha Gufa. You're doing it not for the purpose which it's done in Malacha. Most poskin, like Rabbi Shimon, who holds by Davar Shein Miskaven, it's mutter. It's permitted to go ahead and do it as long as you have kavana. Rabbi Yehuda is the one who's maching and says Davar Shein Miskaven is also. By Malacha Shein Tzricha Gufa, then we pass like Rabbi Shimon, it's Asar Midrabana, as opposed to Rabbi Yehuda Paskins, it's Asar Midoraisa. So this has made ramifications for things like opening refrigerators on Shabbos. Because you open a refrigerator, sometimes the motor comes on. In the old days, it used to come on almost automatically, and nowadays it comes on occasionally, if not frequently. So is that a Davar Shein Miskaven? It's a psik reisha. So that is opening refrigerators on Shabbos goes way back to the Machlokes between Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda. There was a major machlokes between Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Shmuel, who was from the previous generation. Remember, Rabbi Akiva's colleague. And this machlokes is in brachos. And those of you who have learned Daf Yomi have learned it already. Rabbi Shmuel says, there's a mitzvah d'oraisa, a Torah mitzvah of a safta digonecha, to collect your grain. In other words, to work the land of Israel and to make sure things grow there, and to harvest it at the end and gather it. Rabbi Shimon holds no. He says there is of a safta gonecha is not the ideal situation. It's for most people that is the case, but ideally speaking, the non-Jews should serve us, or again, the masses should serve the Talmidei Chachamim, who themselves should not be involved in working the land of Israel, but rather they should be involved in learning and doing mitzvahs constantly, and not be involved in Safta D'Gonecha. Now this machlokas has reverberated throughout the ages. Again, the machlokas says, Rabbi Shmuel, it is a lechatchila. It is a preferred approach to go out and make a living, and at the same time keep Torah mitzvahs to the hilt as much as possible. According to Rabbi Yochai, there is no mitzvah to make a living, and one should be able to find one's living through someone else's toil, if possible, someone toiling for you, and or according to the Rambam says, a very famous Rambam, that if you are zoche and if you devote yourself to Torah mitzvos and fully and completely, then you become like Shevet Levi. And just like Shevet Levi was supported by Meiser, by B'Am Yisrael, you will be supported as well. You will find Hashem will make sure to give you something, that which you need in order to subsist, not luxuriously, but that which you need in order to subsist and continue to be able to learn Torah and do mitzvos and be Oved Hashem without the distraction of having to make a parnasa. So we have, this became a tremendous issue throughout the generations. What is preferential in reality, in halacha? Well, I should say halacha. What is preferential in practice? And the Gemara says, also biyadam. Many people tried to be like Shimon Bar Yochai and tried to forsake this worldly pursuits, and they did not succeed. And the inference from that is that most sources infer that means that, well, Shimon Bar Yochai is not the preferred approach for most people. But there are those who say, yes, perhaps to the masses. But there's always a minority, and the minority, who knows how large it can be, of people who can be like Shimon Bar Yochai. And this is an issue to this day, as in the terms of the issue of whether to learn in kollel, whether to learn one's whole life, whether to go out to make a living. This is a big issue till today. So this machlokes of Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, again, when it says v'asafta d'gonecha and shema, is that considered to be a preferred method, perhaps the preferred method, which is Rabbi Shmuel's opinion, or is it not the preferred method? It's what's appropriate for the masses, but the preferred method is not to go out and work the fields and harvest one gain. That is Rabbi Shmuel's opinion. I'm sorry, Shimon Bar Yochai's opinion. Sorry about that. I should add, there's an interesting Chasam Sofer. Chasam Sofer, the way he paskins, so to speak, he says, and this is important Chasam Sofer, please remember this and write it down. In Eretz Yisrael, Chasam Sofer says, you have to fulfill the mitzvah of Asafta D'Gunecha. Because there's a specific mitzvah to make Eretz Yisrael productive. It's called, usually, Yishuv Ha'aretz. Yishuv Ha'aretz means to settle the land properly. So Yishuv Ha'aretz. So Yishuv means that you have to go out and make sure the land of Israel is flourishing and society is flourishing. And then he goes so far and says, and it's not necessarily as a farmer. It can be as a storekeeper, as a merchant, or as a cobbler, or a blacksmith. Any profession which contributes to the flourishing of the society of Jews in the land of Israel. There's mitzvah of Safta Gunecha. In Chutz La'aretz, he says, on the other hand, there is no mitzvah of Safta Gunecha. It's a mitzvah in Eretz Yisrael. So therefore, in Chutz La'aretz, you don't have to be productive in the sense of contributing to society in a material way. In Chutz La'aretz, you can decide that you're going to just learn or do mitzvahs all the time. So again, according to Chasam Sofer, Vasafta Gunecha is the preferred approach in Eretz Yisrael, and in Chutz La'aretz it doesn't apply. It's a mitzvah which has to do with living in Israel. So that is Machlokes Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yochai and Rabbi Shimon, which reverberates through the generations. What else reverberates by generations is a disagreement which went on between Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and Rabbi Yossi in Masechet Shabbos. And of course, since the round Daf Lamed Gimel, it starts a bit earlier in Shabbos where this takes place because of Lag Bomer. It's an easy way to remember it. And their question was how to relate to the Romans. Rabbi Huda said that the Romans are doing all these things for us. They're building bridges, they're setting up marketplaces, they're maintaining the roads. All these things are for our benefit. And it's wonderful that the Romans are doing all of that for us. Rabbi Yossi remained silent. He didn't say anything. Shimon said, no, the Romans are doing everything they're doing for themselves. They're making their roads and for their own conquests. And the marketplaces for their own commerce. And the bathhouses for their own pleasure. And so on and so forth. So the Roman government, and this is post-Hadrian, this is after the period after the Hadrianic persecutions, but Rome was still a matter of contention in the air. So the Roman government in Palestine heard about this difference of opinion from a fellow who went and snitched, who was present at the time, and it decreed Rabbi Yossi, who was silent, he should go in Golos. Now, where he's going to go Golos from? Rabbi Yossi lives in Tzipori. If you ever go to Tzipori, it's an amazing architectural site where Romans and Jews lived in harmony. The Mar Kokhba revolt had no impact on Tzipori. And it's stunning to see to this day a place in Eretz Yisrael where shuls and avodah zarah houses exist in the same city in relative peace and positive coexistence. He has to go into Golos. Rabbi Huda, who spoke in our praise, he's going to be Rosh HaMedabrim B'chol Makom. He's always going to speak first at any occasion. And at the end of brachos you have when they came to Yavne to open the yeshiva for the newsman. Rabbi Huda was the first one who spoke. Rosh HaMedabrim B'chol Makom. Shimon Bar Yochai, who spoke against us, he should be killed. And then you have the famous story which came out as a result of that, which is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai having to go with his son Rabbi Elazar Shimon and spend 12 years in the cave hiding from the Romans. And afterwards, the Navi said they should come out. And when they came out, they were looking askance at other people who were involved in matters of this world, which relates back to Shimon Bar Yochai's approach about matters of the story which you mentioned previously, and they sent them back for the cave for a year. And when they came out the second time, Elazar Shimon was still being a little bit Bekanoi. He was still had not fully mastered the idea that people don't have to be completely cut off from society like they were for 12 years in order to be holy, until Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai managed to convince his son of that being the case. Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai had a yeshiva in a place called Tekoa, which is in the Galil, and he was one of the, again, major conduit, I should say, of the Torah of Rabbi Akiva to subsequent generations. And he was also a Rebbe, along with others, of Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, which is going to be the next generation, and the final generation of the Tanoim. There are other great Tanoim which we have not mentioned in the generations of that time, especially Rabbi Nassim, who we only mentioned in passing, but we will go on next time to the last generation of Tanoim, including Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi.